What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside. He's
He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownhill. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Comes up a shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello and welcome along to the latest instalment of the TurfCast podcast. Full-time show after a dramatic late win against Portsmouth yesterday. A Josh Brownhill winner in the 94th, 95th minute or whatever it was. These Clarets take home all 3 points. And I've already noticed a few comments about my timekeeping. But as you are all aware, there is quite a big match happening at the minute. And if it wasn't for me, you'd have all missed it because City have equalised. It's now 2-2. So, yes, I didn't even say to the lads because I don't actually watch it in this room. I watch it downstairs. And I was saying to the lads that people won't want to watch it if that game's on. So I was intentionally holding off. But I don't know what my excuse is every single week. But get your comments coming in. I want to know who's watching. I want to know how you feel about yesterday's game. And as usual, I'm joined by a couple of Burnley fans. You may recognise them both. We've got Andrew at the bottom of the screen. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Well, after seeing that last-minute equaliser for City as well, yeah.
I mean, fuck Arsenal, if you ask me. If I could choose one of them two to win the league, it's City every single time. But, I mean, I'm not particularly Arsenal. I don't really have a horse in the race. And somebody said to me last week when I was at Leeds, somebody shouted at me, bring back Layfield. So I've got on the phone, I've made things happen. And as you can see, the top right-hand corner of your screen, Neil Layfield is back. How are we doing?
Oasis, isn't it? It's bigger than Oasis, isn't it? Yes, I am back.
Yes, it is. GST says, evening, lads. Glad to see the Bring Back Layfield campaign. Myself and Clinton started. It must have been you, mate. I was just talking about that. Yeah. I did mention to Neil as well. I messaged him saying somebody's literally just shouted at me, Bring Back Layfield. Then I had a chat with him, but I forgot his name. And he said, yes, it was my mate. Said your name. Again, I forgot it already. I presume your name's not GST. But yeah, it's good to see you in the chat, GST. And it's good to see you back, Neil. How have you been, mate? Let the viewers know how life's been, man. Good.
Oh, life's busy, mate. I'm knackered. That's how I am. I'm permanently knackered. Yeah, it's been a while, innit? New job, young family, commitments, all that shite that takes away from football. So, yeah, things are calming down now. So I've got a bit of my sort of free time back to do things like this and actually watch football for a change, which is nice.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. Definitely nice. And just as I quickly check the score again for the big match, it has finished Man City 2, Arsenal 2. But less of that. We're not here to discuss that. We are not a generic football podcast. We are, of course, a Burnley podcast. And Neil, it's been a while since you've been on the show, so I'm going to bring you in first. Obviously, a dramatic late win for Burnley yesterday, as I've already mentioned, which meant we won the game. We huffed and we puffed and we eventually blew the house down. We managed to get over the line. We managed to get 3 points. It wasn't pretty. We have seen a few people whinging on Twitter, but I do want to get into that later on about the style of play and the XG and the stat creation and all that stuff. But Neil, your thoughts on the game, please, mate.
3 points is all that matters to me, mate. You don't. I think I've said in the group chat, haven't I? You don't win anything for playing pretty football, because otherwise Liverpool would have had more titles than they've got under Klopp. You know what I mean? I'd rather have 3 points than play nice. And that's all that matters to me. And I think it's a sign of a good team if you're getting results and you're not at your best. It's easy. I think it's easy to make comparisons between this team and last time in the Championship because we were spoilt with that company team and the way that they played. This team and he's not manager, he's his head coach. He's not equipped to do that. So he's getting results, but a different way. And as long as it's 3 points each week, I don't really care how they play. I really don't.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's how I feel. And I said it on Twitter yesterday, and I think I said it on my fan reaction as well, that all I'm asked about right now is 3 points. I think there's been a bit of there's been a bit of a whinge on Twitter. It's normally the same people all the time, sort of like complaining about the style of play. Right now, all I care about is the 3 points. I'm happy with the 3 points. Am I happy with the performance for the full 90 minutes? No. I'm happy with the last half an hour? Yes. I do think the team selection was a little bit cautious, playing all three of the midfielders. I don't think we need to play Cullen, Brownhill and Hannibal all at the same time. I think I said in the group chat yesterday, I think it was Chris, who has just messaged the group chat, actually, who's buzzing to see you back, by the way, Neil. I don't know if you've seen it on the TurfCast WhatsApp group.
No.
Chris is watching, despite being otherwise engaged. That's all I'll say, Chris, don't worry. But Chris is very busy at the minute, and he's buzzing to see you back as well. But yeah, I said yesterday in the group chat that I don't think yesterday was Hannibal's type of game. I think Hannibal is a type of game where we will not have a lot of the ball, like Leeds away, like West Brom away. You know, them sort of games where he can put himself about and just wreak havoc. And I don't think yesterday was the game for him, and hence why when he went off, I thought we were better.
I think as well, though, it's what's this? Is it 2-3 games for this team together now? I think it's still early days for this team, and I think the way the football calendar works out in that you've got the transfer window closing, and immediately you've got your international break. You forget that they haven't played together because obviously we signed them and then they're at the club for a little while, but they've only played three games together. Parker won't know the strengths and weaknesses of each of the players yet. They need time to gel together. So if we're still getting results with this infant team, it's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think I said again yesterday on my fan reaction that we're actually in a much better position now than what we were under Company in the first 6 games. Yeah. I can't remember his full name. Dave Roberts. Sorry, go on, Neil.
I was going to say, I think if they're having to grind results out, I think that better equips them for if they do go up as well. Because I think the last time they weren't challenged. There was no one challenging that Championship. So as soon as we went to the Premier League, everyone went in with a sort of naive, overinflated view of how good they actually were in that to go in the Premier League. I think it'll ground everybody's expectations when we go up, but also this team will know how to fight, which there wasn't any last season. So I think I'm happy so far with the steps that are being taken, and I think it's good.
Yeah, as Lee Whittaker says, comment on screen, still need time to gel properly, and that's obviously what you were alluding to there, Neil. Lee Greenwood says, great style of play last season. Look how that ended. Brian Gott on Facebook says, I thought Josh Lauren was a great substitute. He brought play up well and sped up play. I agree with that, Brian, but we'll get into substitution stuff later in the show. It's good to see some of the usual names in the chat. We've got Andy Benny in the chat. Lee Greenwood, as I've already mentioned, I put his comment on screen. Ginger Ali is back. Scott Sullivan was one of the ones whinging about the timekeeping. Hope we're doing a good enough show for you now, Scott, but you are right, mate. I was definitely watching Man City. And James Thresh just says, evening, fellas, calm as a bitch. As you can see, waiting patiently to have his say at the bottom of the screen is Andrew. I hope he's calmed down after that late Man City equaliser. But Andy, your thoughts on yesterday's win, please, mate.
Yeah, like you and Neil said, a win to win. It doesn't matter how it comes about. To be honest, I just want to be entertained when I go on turf, and sitting there watching us pass around the box 800 times to never have a shot and then pass it back to our keeper, it weren't entertaining. So games like that where we do have to dig deep and we do have to grind out the result, it's actually like a bit more enjoyable than just watching us knock around for ages. But yeah, it was good to get the last minute winner, you know, like with how much time they wasted for us to then score in added time. It just made it a little bit more sweeter. But yeah, it's like you and Neil have basically said, like, at the minute, the only thing that matters is the win, and it'll ground the lads ready for if we get promoted.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because if my main worry about Scott Parker, which I don't want to get into now, because hopefully we're having this conversation in April, May, something like that. But my main worry for Parker is if we go up, like, because I think he's done well in the Championship a couple of times, but been found out in the Premier League. So will this style of play, Standard Ingles said, when we go up potentially? But Andrew, I want to come back to you because you said something there. Sorry, Neil, I just want to come back to Andy on something. I'll come to you in a sec. Because you said there you just want to be entertained. Obviously, the argument at the minute is the style of play. Some people saying, "Oh, we're not creating enough big chances. The XG is too low." Were you entertained yesterday? Like just literally playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but you said you want to be entertained, and yet one of the biggest debates on Twitter at the minute is the style of play and how it's not entertaining.
Yeah, I want to be entertained. It don't entertain me to watch us pass it round for God knows how many times and never have a shot, which is what we did the first part of Company's promotion season. God knows how many times last season. Just want to enjoy watching the football. And all right, we weren't at the best yesterday, but it was still enjoyable. It was still entertaining. And then, obviously, when you're going forward, especially after we'd scored the equaliser, it always just felt like there was something going to happen. It was coming. So I found it a lot more entertaining than previously. Yeah. I don't have an issue with the style of play. I think it is what it is. We mix it up with every team that we've come up against so far. Yeah. And it's worked. Bar Sunderland.
Yeah, obviously a lot of mitigating circumstances for the Sunderland game. Neil, you wanted to say something there when I mentioned something about Scott Parker, if we got promoted to the Premier League. If?
Yeah, I did. It's just that obviously, like, it didn't work playing Company style of football with him going up. So there's no harm in, you know what I mean? And we're going up with a completely different style of football. So it might work. It didn't work with Company. So we've just got to worry about that later. And if it works, great. But Company's brilliant football didn't work. So I won't worry too much about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Simon Ed says, how do, chaps? Isn't that the 6 different starting lineup this year? Wait till we get a settled team and hopefully we will start to click. Chris Barker said, should have started Fleming. Link-up play would have been better with Foster and he wouldn't have had to drop down deep. Now, that brings me perfectly onto the substitutions because as a lot of people have already mentioned, Neil, I'll come to you first on this one. As a lot of people have already mentioned, and we've kind of alluded to ourselves in the chat, is that we weren't great to watch. And I felt like the first 60 minutes were pretty poor. Like obviously, Portsmouth got the goal, took the lead, and we didn't look like we had much of an idea to break them down. We didn't look great in possession. We were too slow moving the ball, and then we'd, pass it back or lose possession. And basically, what was I saying like earlier with Hannibal and stuff, like he's not that type of player, and I think he was slowing play down, but it wasn't the only one. I'm not just going to say it was just him. There was Anthony as well and a few others. Foster, I didn't think was great in possession. We lost the ball a lot through him. But then we made some substitutions. Fleming came on, and obviously Sarmiento came on. Them two attacked with purpose. They were good on the ball. Fleming were linking play up. Sarmiento was actually running at fullbacks and trying to make things happen. Obviously, did make something happen with the goal. Them two subs changed the game, didn't they? Do you think that's a fair comment?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's. I think we can say that it was boring or whatever, but you got to give Pompey some credit. That was their game plan, was to take this thing out of the game and to stifle that. And Parker reacted to it. I know he made changes on about the hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
I'd rather that than him just sort of see it out like the old days and not make any changes till 80th minute. So his initial game plan didn't work. Fair play to Pompey. They did what they had to do to stop Burnley from playing, and then he changed it and got the result. So I think that's good management, personally.
Yeah, well, Simon Harvey does say in the chat there, Parker's ability to know when to do subs and the right ones especially is a breath of fresh air. So he's being proactive, isn't he?
Exactly, and that's all you can ask for, because one of the biggest criticisms of Daesh was that he never changed it and he never made his subs. And I know I'm comparing them there, and we shouldn't do really, but Yeah, we've got a proactive manager. He saw it's not working. He saw what it took him first half to work out what Pompey's game plan was, regrouped, and then mixed it up, and it worked. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, Andrew, your thoughts on sort of the substitutions then? Because as I mentioned already, Jeremy and Fleming, they brought on around the 60th minute mark, and the game changed, didn't it? And as Simon Harvey says, it's good substitutions, it's proactive substitutions rather than reactive substitutions that we used to see Company do, or no substitutions that we used to see Dyche do. So I guess some people are using it as a stick to beat him, a stick to beat Parker, to say that he's getting it wrong with his team selection and stuff. But then the flip side of that is that his subs are good and proactive.
Yeah, like he brought on the right players, and obviously, like Laurent did well when he came on as well. But he's brought on the right players at the right time. I think Sarmiento, he came on like 60th minute and scored 2 minutes later. Obviously he's come on and made an instant impact pretty much. And all right, yeah, maybe Parker got it wrong with his starting 11. Maybe it weren't the right team, but was 5-6 games in.
Yeah.
These lads, like Neil said before, they've only had like 3 games together. Parker's still learning the team. He's still learning the club. The players are still learning each other's names and getting used to each other. And it's, like with Foster, for example, we've all expected Foster to hit the ground running and be our star striker and score, all the goals to get us promoted. He's not done that. So Parker's reacting to that, bringing on these different players, and that's what we wanted. Like I say, Company just made reacted subs. Dyche didn't make subs, so now we've got someone who looks like they're going to read the game plan of the other team,
Yeah,
and they're actually going to react to it, or adapt our team around it rather than just try and play the style that we play.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned Lauren there, so I want to stick with you. He came on and did very, very well, didn't he? Simon Harvey, I think I've already put it on screen, I can't remember. But Simon Harvey does say there, I've just got to say, whoever found Lauren for 500k needs a pay rise. It has been one of the best signings in terms of value we've made. Obviously, some people will say the 450k or whatever it was for Ashley Barnes, or the 30k or whatever it was for Michael Duff will be up there as well. But from what I've seen so far from Josh Lauren, he's been fantastic, hasn't he? And I do like Cullen, and I do think Cullen is the best midfielder that we have, probably the best midfielder in the league. But I think when Laurent replaced him yesterday, I did originally criticise it on Twitter, to be honest. Laurent was much better than Cullen yesterday. I'm not sure if Cullen was playing with the knock or whatever. That's a different debate. But he actually drove forward. And that's something in his game that I didn't know too much about. I thought it was more of a Cullen-style defensive midfielder, who will break the play up and give it to the more creative players. But Lauren yesterday was driving the ball and getting forward, wasn't he? It was a real breath of fresh air when he came on. So that's why Scott Parker's bomber jacket cost like $2,500 and mine cost 30 quid. But that Lauren was fantastic yesterday, weren't he?
Yeah, it was exactly what we needed at that time. Like I say, Cullen's obviously, I think he's just come back from being injured, so he's obviously still probably got a bit of a knock there. But yeah, like I didn't know much about Laurent before we signed him. He was probably the one signing that I was not underwhelmed with, but not expecting a lot from. And up to now, I'd probably say he's been our best signing. He's been brilliant in the games that he's played. And like I say, yesterday, when he came on, he came on at the right time and he just knew what to do. I think he'd been on the pitch like a few minutes and he nutmegged one of their players in the top corner, which I didn't expect from him. So yeah, I'm really pleased with him. I thought he played really well.
Yeah, Neil, thoughts on Lauren? In fact, to be honest, I'll just give you a bit of a small anecdote before I go to Neil, because I'm in like this big championship chat WhatsApp group that offended me when I got added to it, because obviously it meant we'd been relegated. But it is sometimes good to chat to people about certain players and stuff. And I remember when I spoke to this, I didn't even ask to start lad, I just put something in there saying like, this Laurent from Stoke, is he any good? And they're all criticising it, saying, "Oh, I don't know why Burnley would want him. Well, why would a parachute payment club?" They always get that in. Why would a parachute payment club want to buy Laurent? It's a bizarre signing for Burnley. But he's been fantastic. And for 500k, he has done very, very well, hasn't he, Neil?
Yeah, it's a good signing. I think from what I've seen, most of the signings I'm quite impressed with, to be fair. Who's identified these, I don't know. If it's Parker who's identified them or whether they're sort of already on the radar or not from sort of like past season, I don't know. But yeah, very good player. And it's nice to have that bit of strength in depth. I think, who's that defender who came in on close to deadline day from...
Worrell?
Who's that defender we signed? No. Egan. Players like that, Egan. I think it's just it's just having that experience to the bench and that quality on the bench. That's what's setting Burnley apart from everybody else in the league. I think is that we've got good strength and depth there. But yeah, he's one of the strongest. But I've been impressed with most of them. To be fair, there's not one of them I've watched play and just thought we've bought in for.
You say that, but I do quickly want to chat about some negatives before people have a go. I do feel like you sometimes got to balance it out and stuff. I can't just sit here and wax lyrical. But I just quickly want to mention the comment on screen. Obviously, those watching on listening on the podcast later on won't see it on screen, so I just want to quickly read it out. Luke says, "Portsmouth fan here. Good luck for the rest of the season. Would like to think we gave you a good game and can kick on after these cruel opening games." Yeah, to be fair to Portsmouth, I think that they've played. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but obviously I talked about it in the pre-game show with the Portsmouth fan. They've played Leeds, they've played us, they've played Middlesbrough, they've played Luton. Next up, they've got Sheffield United. So they have had a very harsh start to life in the Championship. And I know it doesn't look great at the minute that they are, 23rd, 24th. I rarely look at the league table, to be honest, at this stage of the season. I will be bringing the league table in later, though. So, yeah, it doesn't look great in the fact that they haven't won and they've conceded a lot of injury-time goals. But we'll judge Portsmouth when they play the likes of Oxford, Preston, Derby, them sort of teams. I think that will define their season. But, yeah, thanks for coming on the show, mate, and commenting. We're always welcome of opposition fans here on the TurfCast full-time show, as long as they're not being dickheads. And Luke wasn't being a dickhead yet on that comment. I just quickly want to give a shout out to a chap I saw yesterday in the Jimmy Mack stand. Again, a quick anecdote. I think I said it on my fan reaction, but when Portsmouth were making one of their ridiculous time-wasting subs, sorry, Luke, and I actually thought it were a double sub, but apparently it were a triple sub, but they were started making a substitution, and my little boy needed the toilet, so I'm like, quickly, let's run downstairs and have one now. And great parenting. Apologies if you've already listened to this on the fan reaction, but I pushed him in the toilet, got him ready, said, "Ray, I'll meet you on top of the stairs." And as I was waiting on the top of the stairs, this gentleman came up to me, an older gentleman. I hope you don't mind me saying that, and said, "Oh, I really love your shows and stuff. All the lads, you and all the lads are great. It's always fantastic to watch." And I said, "Oh, cheers, mate." He said, "I'll be looking forward to it. I'll be watching this weekend." I said, "Well, fingers crossed it's not a miserable one." This is when it was 1-1. "Fingers crossed it's not a miserable show because this hasn't been great so far, has it?" And he went, "You say that, mate. We'll win this match. I'm confident we'll win this match." So I wish I had your confidence, mate. And he was right. So if you are watching this, mate, and you see me again on the Jimmy Mack, maybe come and do some hosting duties because you obviously know a lot more than me. Portsmouth fan Luke has responded. He said, "I'll try not to be a dickhead, lads. Don't worry." Yeah, cheers, mate. Any comment on the time wasting? That was karma, wasn't it? No, now I'm being a dickhead, Luke. Sorry. But yeah, I do quickly want to go on to some of the not more as positive things. I'm not criticizing players too much, but I do want to talk about Pires because there's been a couple of comments in the chat about Pires. I quickly see if I can find it. Yeah, it's from Scott O'Sullivan here. It says, "Robert's still to return, but Pires is a worry for me. I did think Pires didn't have a great game yesterday." I'll come to you first on this one, Andrew. It seems that the wingers seem to get past him a little bit too easily yesterday, didn't they? That's not the first time that we've seen a Pires performance where he's been a little bit suspect defensively. Looks decent going forward, but does look a little bit suspect defensively yesterday. And I thought, normally, and yesterday I thought that was the case as well.
Yeah, he reminds me very much of, I know it's going to sound stereotypical, but it reminds me a lot of Vitinho, but from the other side. Like, he's very good going forward. He's definitely got something there, in an attacking sense, but he's not the best defensively. I think he started off the season so well as well. The Luton game, he started off so well, and I think that was like our expectations of him. And now he's dropped off a little bit. But there's still a player there. You know, I keep saying it, and people are going to be bored of me saying it, but it's still early days. But yeah, he seems to me more of an attack-minded winger than a left back.
Yeah, to be fair, I think when Vitinho started with us, he didn't look great originally. Ended up being class, to be fair to Vitinho, and being one of the most versatile players we had, to the point where I was genuinely gutted that he left. But Lee Greenwood says Pires isn't a left back. Is he more of a right back then, mate? I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me on that one. Simon Harvey says, I thought Pires was great in the second half, linked up really well with Sarmiento. He's probably more that type of player when he's got a player in front of him who's willing to attack, and then he's got the space to use that. He can link up well with them. But when the back's against the wall a little bit, I mean, we didn't really have backs against the wall yesterday, but Pompey were pressing us quite well, and Pires was struggling with that. I felt. I nearly put a comment on screen there from somebody whose name I put on screen yesterday. Mate, I can't put that on screen. Feel free to change your YouTube name, and I will more than happily put it on screen. But he says, with all these new players, one or two are bound to struggle at first. Chris Wilson says, said it on here after the Cardiff game. He's so poor, it's untrue. Couldn't trap a bag of cement. Good to see Chris is on form as ever. He's not. I don't necessarily disagree with it. Chris never sort of like minces his words, does it? Twin Cities Clarets says, to be honest, Portsmouth looked a much stronger side than I had anticipated. Time wasting aside, they looked solid. Yeah, again, another comment from the YouTube name that I can't put on screen. Daniel Johnson Noodles says, we're being too harsh on Pires. I don't think I am, if I'm being honest. I think I've said it legitimately, I just feel like sometimes he gets beaten a little bit too easily. Neil, I want to ask your opinion on Pires, because you did say that you've been impressed with pretty much all the new signings. Yeah. Obviously, Pires is one of them new signings. What are your thoughts on him, mate?
Andrew said it. What I was going to, he reminds me of Vitinho. He's quite raw. I think there's a player there who just needs moulding. But I think throughout football, I mean, where are all the left backs? There's no left backs in football, is there? Like, if you. It just seems to be a position where there is no quality. So, we've got a left back, so let's just be happy about that. But I think, yeah, he reminds me of Vitinho. I think he's a raw player, and it's like, I'm going to repeat what Andrew said again. It's early days. Let them mould, let them develop. Yeah, he'll get a partnership on that left hand side and just go from there. It's definitely better. It's definitely more attack minded than defense minded. Yeah. And this isn't a direct comparison whatsoever, but you know how like Trent is a fullback, but he's better going forward than he is defending. It's that sort of vibe. I'm not saying he's Trent. There's no comparison whatsoever there. But it's the same thing in that he's criticised for his defensive ability, but going forward he's great. And if that's the same for Pires, in that he offers a threat going forwards, and that's what he's in a team for, then fair play. It's just the way what we've been brought in for. But he's it's raw, and he is Vitinho vibes, definitely. Definitely Vitinho.
Yeah,
vibes.
No, I agree with that. I think Andrew made a good point there, and some people have been saying it in the chat as well about when he was linking up well with Odebear on the left. When he has that space to move into, and he isn't being pressed or isn't being pinned back, then he's a much better player. Trafford, I do want to talk about Trafford. I don't want to be one of these guys that sort of like always ends up being, critical of certain players, because I was waxing lyrical about Trafford against Leeds. It didn't have much to do yesterday. But I've seen a few comments. And by the way, I'm only mentioning Trafford because there's been some comments on Twitter. And Neil, I'll come to you first on this one. He came out and did a brilliant punch in the first half, got some good distance on it, was aggressive with it, ran through like a brick wall to get it. I remember thinking, this guy is doing really, really well. This league is his league. And then literally 5 minutes later, he came out, swung for a punch, missed it, day at the post. Is he... Again, I don't want to be harsh on him because I know he's young and all that, and I always feel like I have to get in there. But do you just think like with Trafford, he's still just getting there? He's still just getting there as a goalkeeper, and he's working on these crosses? Because I have noticed an influx of him coming for crosses, and of course he was fantastic against Leeds. Collected that cross in what felt like the 150th minute to properly take the pressure off us. But obviously there was the one against Luton last season. It nearly happened again yesterday. What are your thoughts on it? And as Lee Greenwood says, he did make a fantastic save as well. What are your thoughts on him, Neil?
I think this is his level. I think this is a level he should have been playing at last year. I think last year has done him no favours whatsoever. Other
I agree.
than it might have built his resilience up a little bit. But this is definitely his level. Keepers make mistakes. I was saying this to my father-in-law earlier because it was on about the Sunderland keeper because obviously he's a Mackem. And if a forward misses a chance, it doesn't really get spoken about. But if the keeper makes a mistake or misses a ball, it's highlighted just because of the position they're in. And I think a young keeper, he is going to make the mistakes. He's just unfortunate as a keeper, and it gets highlighted more. This is definitely, I think this is more his league. And I think sort of after Christmas, you'll see. I think we'll see what Trafford's about. I think after Christmas, if he's still sort of like got question marks over him, then maybe he's not yet. But I think after Christmas, we'll see what he's about because this is the level he should have been playing at. And yeah, against Leeds, he was great, wasn't he? And I didn't have a bad game yesterday, did he? He just made a mistake. But it is good to see him coming for crosses because the biggest thing I criticised him for was that he was glued to his line and never came out, and he had no presence whatsoever. And you can see that he is getting that. So there is something going on there where he is taking on coaching advice and he is trying these things. So yeah, just stick with him. I think he'll be good. I think this league will do wonders for him because last year won't have helped whatsoever. I think that's probably why he had a little bit of a meltdown in the summer, didn't he? And wanted out and all that sort of stuff. But fair play, he didn't get his move, but he's got his head down. He's stuck around. He's not sort of chucked his toys out. He's trying. So we'll just see how he is. I'm more comfortable with him at this level, though, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, completely agree with pretty much everything. I do think he actually played okay yesterday. To say he didn't have much to do, but that one mistake is always going to get highlighted. Claret and Blue 1882 says, I hope that claim for Trafford against Leeds doesn't go to his head and I think he can come and claim everything. I see what you're saying, mate, but I put that on screen because I slightly disagree with it. I think he should be coming for more stuff now. I didn't like the fact that, as Neil said, he was rooted to his line a lot in the Premier League last season, and then there'd be some games where he'd come for stuff and get it wrong. So I understand what you're saying there, Claret and Blue. Like, we don't want him to come for everything, but he needs to learn when's right to come and when's not to come. And I do think he played. And has played pretty well this season, to be fair. Andrew, your thoughts on him so far this season? Obviously, fantastic against Leeds. Didn't really have too much to do yesterday. Did make the mistake, but, did also make a fine save as well. I think it was in the second half, wasn't it? I can't remember what it was, but also made a fine save as well.
Yeah. Yeah, like Neil said, if a striker misses an open goal, it's one of them, or you move on. The goalkeeper misses the ball and it ends up, hitting post or going in or whatever. It gets highlighted more because of the position. I'm sure I say this every single week, but the lad's still only 21. You look at the best goalkeepers in the world, they're not there at 21. I think the only exceptions like Donnarumma, who's probably the world's best. Pope, when we signed him, I think he was 24. Heaton was a bit older. These goalkeepers that we've had, that we've been blessed with, are a lot older. He's definitely, last week against Leeds, he were absolutely outstanding. He was the man of the match. Yesterday, apart from that one cross, he's not really made any other mistakes. The lad's growing into it. This is definitely his level at the minute. This is where he should have been last year. It's definitely his level at the minute. But I agree with Neil. After January or after December, see where he's at then. If there's still question marks over him, maybe it is time for someone else to have a go.
Yeah, fair enough. Lee Greenwood said a lot of players struggle first season. I think Trafford is settling in now. This league is his level. Yeah, I agree with that. I know I've already had this comment on screen, but I want to read it out again from Twin Cities Clarets. He says, Burnley struggle to keep clean sheets. It's not solely Trafford. He's coming along. I agree with that because the goal that we conceded yesterday was nothing to do with Trafford. It was just awful defending. Too easy down the right-hand side, and then nobody tracking the guy in the middle. As Scott Oliver says there. Sorry, go on, Neil.
I think we've got the benefit of hindsight now, haven't we? Because obviously last year, I was to put it mildly, not Trafford's biggest fan. But when you watch the documentary and when you look at what went on last year, and I think most keepers would have struggled in that team. Last year, I think possibly even Muric would have struggled in that team because it was just so underperforming and so badly managed towards the end. I just think I've reflected about it a little bit. I think it was harsh on Trafford. I think most keepers would have struggled in that team last year. I really do, especially in that league. with the way that team was. So yeah, but that's just obviously the benefit of hindsight. But I think there's a keeper there, and I think we'll see some good from him this year. I really do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
His
think
distribution's still awful, though. I will say that.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't remember him doing any poor distribution yesterday, but there was some poor ones against Leeds. Clarence Blue 82 says, I also like that. I think I was meant to say Traff looks much more involved in the team. Previous seasons, he's seen very isolated from his teammates. Clara Al says
that's what I sort of mean. Like last year, you could see that there was fractions in the squad and players not sort of really getting on. I think it was just a bad environment last year. I think he's in a better environment and a league that suits him more. More where his level is now. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for changing your name there, mate. See, I can put your name, I can put your comments on screen now. The guy whose name was what I will not mention, those of you watching on YouTube will have seen him in the chat, has now changed his name to Clarets. So there we go. Clarets says one positive is that we haven't still got Will Norris. You know what? I thought he was poor when he played for us. It was nice to see him getting a bit of a clap when he came up to the Jimmy Max. I do sometimes worry, like, you know, not that I worry I'd be arse, but think it'd be harsh to him to get booed. He got a nice clap when he came over. But what was he doing for that goal, Neil? I'm sorry, but when Brownhill takes that shot, it's such a potch look shot, isn't it? He's just hitting it. He's off balance as well a little bit. He's like leaning properly to the left, and then it goes in slow motion. Why doesn't he just dive?
I know. I can only think he thought it was going wide. That's the only thing I can think is he thought it was going wide. But a keeper of his experience should know where his post is, surely, and see the angle of that and think shit going in. But yeah, but he looked like he was sort of stuck, didn't he? You could see he sort of thought about diving, and it's almost as if his brain just couldn't tell his legs to actually do it. It's like he sort of just forgot what to do. But he should have done better there.
Maybe there were too many bodies in the way. Interesting comment here from Neil's best mate, GST. He says, speaking of fractions in the squad, was good to see Cullen rollicking Foster and then them being adults and sorting it out a few minutes later. I'll be honest, Neil's best mate, I didn't actually see that. Andrew, have you seen this? Because there was a comment earlier in the stream that somebody said that Cullen and Foster, or was it Josh Brownhill and Foster? I think they said there was a bit of an issue, but I haven't seen this or seen anyone allude to it on Twitter. GST, if you have more information, please put it in the comments so I can read that out. But Andrew, did you see anything?
I saw some. I can't quite remember where it might have been Cullen, might have been Brownhill, but there were someone having a do at Foster. But I'm pretty sure at that moment I was giving Foster a bit of abuse myself. So. But yeah, I don't know what it were about. I think Foster had a poor touch and he turned around to complain at whoever had passed it through to him or something. That's what I sort of took from it. But yeah, it's good to see that. You've got to have that in a football dressing room, ain't you? You've got to have it where they have a go at each other, and you do want the arguments, but that's like the passion. And then it's good to see that they were grown forward, grown up enough to go, right, we move on, instead of letting it fester.
Yeah, fair enough. Scott O'Sullivan does say, Cullen told Foster to go forward with the ball. You know what? As I've been sort of thinking then when you said it, I remember there was one point, I don't think this was it, but there was one point where somebody gave a pass to Foster. He messed it up and then he turned around and bollocked people. I don't know if that's something to do with it.
I think that
Neil,
will win.
Yeah, is that what it is? Neil, your acquaintance has said that you're not best mates, your acquaintances, but your acquaintance has said that there was a rollick in there. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it, but I think it's healthy. I think it's good.
Yeah.
What do you want players not to speak to each other I think it's healthy. It shows that they fight. It shows they're passionate, and it shows they care. I think there's nothing wrong with it. And like I say, as long as it doesn't boil over and they sort it out, it's like final whistle's gone. Yeah, it's fine. We'll go for a pint or whatever. Fine, nothing wrong with it. It's good.
Yep.
Because last year, a pint of water or fruit juice. I don't advocate drinking and definitely not drinking out of a beer glass. But yeah, no, I think it's good. It's good in a team that they're comfortable enough to do that, and it's how they improve. They fire each other up, and yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, fair enough. Clara Owl says it was late in the second half. I think it was Brownhill telling him to pull his finger out. Well, like I said, I have missed that, so I will be looking out for that. Somebody said on Twitter, Neil, I'll stick with you. Somebody said on Twitter, and I thought I agree with it, so I'm going to bring it up, that Scott Parker, and this is completely understandable when you think about what's happened, but Scott Parker doesn't know his best team yet. And obviously, I've already alluded to the fact that I wouldn't have selected Hannibal for this game because I don't think it was his game. As much as I do like him, I don't think this was his game. And there was other players in there that I would have played as well, like Fleming. And then obviously when he made them changes, Fleming came on and Sarmiento came on, and then later in that, Lauren came on as well. We were much better, weren't we? So do you think that's a fair point that Scott Parker doesn't know his best side yet?
Yeah, I think so. The amount of changes that went on, if you think about the build up to that way, I mean, I'm glad I wasn't on Twitter that build up to deadline day because it was just carnage, wasn't it?
Oh mate,
he didn't know who was. I don't think he's known his best teams in joining because he didn't know who he was going to have. So I think he's got his squad now. He's working out who's better at doing what, who works together well. Realistically, the season started for these boys after the international break, didn't it? So it's game 3 for these lads. So who does know the best squad after 3 games, really? Give it. I don't think it'll take however many bloody training sessions it took Megamind. I think it was like, how many training sessions did he say it took to get his system across? I don't think it'll be like that with Parker. I think he'll sort it out pretty quick. It's just a case of it's week 4 now. Next week, isn't it? Of this team. So yeah. exactly that comment there. It's it's too early. He doesn't know his best team. I think he knows the spine. I think he knows the strongest spine, and then it's just what goes around that. But what I have seen is that he changes it according to the opponent, so he's not just stuck in. This is the system, and this is my squad. This is how I'm playing. He adapts to whoever he's playing against, which is also a positive for me. I've got to say, I've been massively impressed with Parker and the way he's been throughout his time, the way he conducted himself when it was all madness. And the way he's been up to now, I've been very impressed. To say I was quite underwhelmed when he was announced. I've been quite impressed.
Yeah, so just to confirm, when Neil says Megamind, he's obviously referring to Vincent Kompany due to the size of his massive forehead.
Oh, I'm not there. I'm not there.
Just as Lee Greenwood there reminded me to just let everyone know what Neil meant. But the comment that Neil is referring to on screen is obviously on screen now for the benefit of the podcast listeners. Twin Cities Clarets says, given how many new players have come in, don't know any manager could know what the best 11 are at this stage. And I completely agree, mate. I'm only asking the question just to create debate and play devil's advocate. But Andrew, I'll come to you, mate. Do you think that's a fair point? And if it is, what would you do next week against Oxford? Because again, Hannibal, it's not going to be his sort of game. I wouldn't have Hannibal playing against Oxford. I'd have Fleming, I'd have Foster, I'd have maybe Loren and Cullen, maybe Loren and Brownhill, and then maybe Sarmiento and Corleosho on the wings could probably do a lot of damage against Oxford. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Parker potentially not knowing his best 11? Do you think that's a fair comment?
Yeah, I don't think none of us know what the best 11 would be. At this moment, like Neil said, we're only a few games in with this team, so we don't really know ourselves. So, all right, fair enough, Parker, he's in and around them a lot more, but we still don't know what our best team is. So I think it's completely fair to say that. I think, obviously, last weekend we thought Humphreys had a great game, but then he had to miss out yesterday, obviously, for suspension. There's quite a lot of different players in there. So yeah, I don't think any of us know what the best 11 is, but I agree with Neil there. I've been really impressed with him since he's come in. I do like that he mixes it up for the opponents. But yeah, like Neil said, he's done well. But yeah, next weekend I wouldn't have Foster in that starting 11. I'd like to see Fleming in that position because Foster for me yesterday wasn't good enough. He came into it a little bit later on, but I'm not sure if he's there wanting to play for us, or if these transfer rumours have turned his head, or if he's not fully fit. I just think he needs a bit of a reality check, and probably needs dropping.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll come to you, Neil, on that one then. I have written down Foster here, but Andrew's mentioned it first. What are your thoughts on Foster's play yesterday? I know we've kind of alluded to it a little bit because we were talking about the Brownhill and Cullen having a bollocking of him. I thought his touch was quite poor. I thought he struggled to get into the game. It's weird, like when we were dropping down into the Championship, I know we signed him in the Championship and he didn't originally play very well in the Championship, but then when we went to the Premier League, I kind of feel like that suited him a little bit more. So then we've been relegated since. I remember thinking, Foster's going to do very well in the Championship now, maybe kick on. And I even put like a cheeky fiver on him to be the Championship leading goal scorer. I think it was something like 45-1. I'm pretty certain that's not going to happen now. But it doesn't seem to be that type of striker, does it? That it's going to be getting you 25, 30 goals. So what were your thoughts on his performance yesterday? Because as Clinton Hill does say here, Foster is a concern for me, not threatening enough, as Andrew's kind of just said.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's very slow start to the season. For me, and we won't go on to it too much, but he's not been the same player since he had that absence. So we've got an idea of how bad it was for him, but we don't know exactly what went on. But he's not been the same since. And I think he's really struggled for form since he came back. But yeah, I think a few games out probably now. He's not looking right for me. Whether he's carrying injury or not, I don't know, or whether he's hopefully not at the start of another sort of issue. Drop him now. He's had a very slow start to the season.
Yeah, interesting. Support Fleming played quite well in the 9 role against Leeds, but I was interested to see how Fleming and Lyle would work together. I do agree with you both in the fact that he's not played very well so far this season, but I wouldn't drop him just yet. I'm playing against Oxford. I want to see how Foster in the 9 and Fleming in the 10 linking up. I want to see how that works. And then obviously with, 2 fast, pacey wingers on either side, whether it be Anthony and Koleosho, Sarmiento and Koleosho, literally anybody in Koleosho, we'll have to wait and see. But I wouldn't drop him just yet. But Clinton Hill says on screen, and I've referenced it already, but I'm just going to go through some comments on it. He says, Foster is a concern for me, not threatening enough. Alex says, I want to see what Adji has to offer. Claret and Blue 1882 says, someone needs to tell Foster to not come too deep for the ball. And Neil's acquaintance, GST, echoes that. He says, spends too much time in central midfield and not up top. There was a moment in the second half when Koleosho got through and played a ball into the box, and Foster was making his way from the centre circle. I do remember that because I remember sorry for the suspense there. It's just I was hoping, I read it out. I'm like, has he even finished this? Thankfully he did. And I do remember shouting, there's nobody there. And then I immediately think, hold on, somebody should be there. What's going on? New name, changed his name again. I preferred it when it was just Clarets, mate. Says, I think we can all agree on the Foster situation. And Mark Savoyne, apologies, I've definitely butchered that. He says, Foster was poor with his control yesterday. He gave the ball away too many times. Completely agree. But like I said, I personally wouldn't drop him yet. I know some people have said they would. Andrew, go on. You sound like you want to say something.
Just going to say, I think my main issue with Foster, especially yesterday, I don't know if it's just yesterday or I've only just picked up on it, but he has his back to goal a lot. And I know that's like the sort of way that we play, when we're building up. But he's too slow to then turn and get it out on it of his feet. There were a moment again where I think it was like towards like the 70th minute, something where he got the ball and he wasn't quick enough to turn, and Brownhill were running through. And I think if he'd have been quick enough to turn, he'd have been able to knock it through to Brownhill. And instead he hesitated, then tried to take the shot himself. And by that point, he had 2 men on him. And I think that's his issue. He drops deep, and then he's not quick enough to turn, and then he's just got his back to goal all the time, and that's my main issue with him. And I think drop him, give him a bit of time out the team, let him know, because when he pulled his finger out the last 15 minutes yesterday, he played well. But it's the 75 minutes before it where he's absolute dog shit. that just frustrated
Yeah,
me.
but is that not because he's got a proper number 10 behind him doing the link-up play with him, and then that's why he's looking better? This is what I mean. I would like to see him and Fleming linking up, because I don't think Hannibal's that 10, and obviously he was kind of playing in that position yesterday, but then he was coming deep because that's more of his natural role, and then Foster's then going into that space. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Fleming and Foster against Oxford. If it doesn't work, then give them a couple of games, because as Bob says on screen there, we have 3 games in 7 days coming up. So I'll quickly got my diary out, and he is correct. We've got Oxford versus Burnley on Saturday the 28th. Then we're playing Plymouth at home on the 1st, and then we're at home against the Knobenders on the 5th. So we could see quite a lot of rotation there. So if it doesn't work there, maybe try something else against Plymouth and then something else against Preston or whatever. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I just feel like next weekend,
I was just thinking.
Probably... Go on, Neil. Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, do you think there's an element of him trying to do too much? You know what I mean? Like, as a sort of like,
yeah.
It's sort of like he's trying to show. We can already see he's got this sort of leadership vibe about him. Is he just trying to do too much, and that's why he's dropping deep, because he just wants the ball to try, and he just thinks, I'm going to do it all. Maybe it's just a little bit of that, and he just needs talking to a little bit about that. What his role is.
I do agree with that, but I also want to reiterate the point that I think having Fleming in that 10 will stop him from dropping deep, because Fleming will be doing that role for him. And I'm definitely going to butcher this name, so apologies. But Tabiso Langa, there's a South African in the chat. We do have a lot of South African fans on TurfCast. We know why. It's because of Lyle. But he or she says, as a South African, what I hate about Foster is that he doesn't press much. He lets the opposition move. He lets the opposition move from their half easily. Move the ball from their half easily, I think I was meant to say. Sometimes Foster can press quite well, but sometimes, he can be a little bit lazy. I think what it is half the time is knackered, because as we've just said, it is too busy pissing about in central midfield, and then by the time he's got forward, it is a little bit knackered. But anyway, Lee Greenwood says he's like Harry Kane for England, always in the wrong places. Not bad for the leading goal scorer of the country, but I see what you mean there about Harry Kane there, Lee, which is a fair comment. We're going to start wrapping it up soon. Don't all go yet, because there are a couple of bit of things I do want to start chatting about. I'm going to start doing something that I did towards the end of the season, last season, every single week, and the season before, every single week, is I'm going to bring the league table on your screen. Now, it's obviously a little bit early, and I don't know if you can read that. It is looks a bit small there on screen. But the problem is, there's too many bloody adverts on this damn thing. There you go. That's the best I can do. So the league table, as it stands, West Bromwich Albion, top of the league. Done pretty well, to be fair. West Brom haven't lost a game yet, just drawn on the opening day of the season. No, it wasn't. Was it yesterday, did West Brom? I can't remember, but they've won 5 drawn.
Yeah.
Then Sunderland. Was it yesterday?
No, they won yesterday.
They won. Yeah, 1-1-0. And it must have been opening day of the season. But anyway, no, it must be second game. Anyway, it's irrelevant. I don't know why I'm getting bogged down in that. Anyway, Sunderland second, as I'm sure, Neil, you've been made well aware of living up there. They've done quite well, obviously. Only lost the 1 game, which was a shock as well against Plymouth. But I watched them yesterday in the fan zone. I like to get to the fan zone, me, and watch the early kickoff when I can. And I did that yesterday. And they look pretty good. They press well. Then it's the mighty Clarets in third. On 13 points, obviously just going back. West Brom are top on 16, then Sunderland on 15, then comes us on 13. Mind the gap, Blackburn in 4th on 12 points, because they've won 3. They might be unbeaten, but they've also drawn 3 as well. Then you've got Sheffield United in 5th on 12 points. Then Leeds all the way down in 6th on 11th. Neil, I'll come to you first. That table looks pretty good, doesn't it, for 6 games played? And as I've already mentioned, and as I've seen somebody mention in the comments as well, we are in a better position than what we were under Company at this stage of the season. And we all know what happened there. We nearly broke the record of the most points ever. We broke the record for the team earliest to be promoted in a championship season, and the earliest to win the league as well. So we did very, very, very well last season, despite having a slower start. So we're very, very finely placed, aren't we?
Yeah, but it's just a me thing. I don't pay any attention to the table until till the clocks go back, really, because for me the championship's too tight to even look at it at the minute. It's one of those leagues, isn't it, where you can be sort of third bottom, but only for like 4 points from top. It's such a tight and weird league. I personally think it's too early to look at the table, but it definitely makes good reading. Definitely, the family I'm married into is happy. We're happy. Everybody's happy.
Well, the clocks go back on Sunday, the 27th of October. So I'll be asking you, Neil, on Sunday, the 27th of October. But I get your point. I don't really pay too much attention to it until about like now.
I mean,
the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game mark.
Yeah, I mean, if devil's advocate, if we were near the bottom, would we be worried at this stage? No, it's too early, isn't it? But yeah, it's nice. It is nice to see.
I'm sure there'd be a meltdown on Twitter, mate, if we were down the bottom.
100%. Mate, I've only rejoined it for like 4 days and it's already doing my nutting. I don't know why I bothered rejoining that cesspit. But
mate,
anyway,
if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't think I'd be on it myself. He says that. I've started tweeting more on my personal account as well recently. So I'm obviously a hypocrite. Sorry, Andrew. I'm going to put some comments on screen so they will cover your face. Some might say it's an improvement. I disagree. There you go. That's much better, Andrew. Scott O'Sullivan says, yep, it's fine. Grumper and Pugs says, looks fine. Claret and Blue 1882 says, let HMS piss the league, set sail. Claret Owl says, I agree, Neil. I normally start looking at the league in December. I added a few words there, but that's pretty much what he meant. And Clinton Hill says, I said 24 points from the next 8 games when you asked on last week's show, Joe. 3 in the bag and 21 to go. Yes, obviously we discussed that last week, so I won't go into it again too much this week. We'll maybe reassess it in the next couple of weeks as well, but we do have some favourable fixtures coming up, and we are now in the run of a list of favourable fixtures, and thankfully we've got 3 points out of the first favourable fixture. It might have been late. It might have been all huff and puff, but we got there eventually. Andrew, your thoughts on that league table? Are you too bothered at this stage? I like to start looking it around now. I know some people have said that. To be fair, the algorithm. I've only just seen this comment from Neil's acquaintance, so I want to bring it up. It's Flash Score. I think Flash Score. If you go on Flash Score, I do think it is just full of betting things. But yeah, I like a bet. I'm not one of them that's going to sit here and say I don't. But Andrew, your thoughts on that league table, please, mate? Because I like I said, I like to start looking at it now. And I do think it starts to take shape around about now. You will see some teams, normally your Coventries and your Middlesbroughs, that start slow and then make a late assault on the playoffs and end up missing out on promotion. And you will see some teams, normally Blackburn, that absolutely sink like a stone, and fingers crossed they do it again this season. But it does tend to take shape, doesn't it, around this start of the season? But are you too bothered?
Yeah, as soon as final whistle went against Luton, I was looking at table trying to work out where we were. So yeah, I'm
not that early, but yeah, fair enough.
But no, I just like looking at table and knowing where we are, especially in comparison to certain other teams, not specifically just them lot, but I just like to know where we are, and I'm always looking at it. But that table you had up there, I think it were wrong, because it had them lot 4th, but I thought they won it 3 weeks ago.
Wonder what you were doing there. I'm like, Flash Score's never wrong. What's he on about? Yes, Blackburn did win the league when they drew 1-1 at the Turf. That's why there were flares on the pitch.
But no, I like looking at the table as early as I can, and just I don't know why. It don't matter. Like say till around probably October, November, that's when it'll proper take shape. But yeah, I just watch it every single time.
Fair enough. I used to be one of them kids that you remember when you just have them little pieces of card and you could move them up and down. I used to be one of them. Neil will know because Neil's of the older generation. A little bit.
Used to get it in. Used to get it in Match magazine, didn't you? You used to get the chart thing with the little kits and you pop them. Oh, it's classic.
Yeah. You know what? I saw someone doing a live yesterday on TikTok actually moving one of them around, and I watched the live for a good 5 minutes. Then I realised, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I've sat here for 5 minutes watching some guy go, and the Burton Albion won today or whatever, and we're moving them around. So I was, but I did enjoy it actually. So I'd love to get one back and have it behind me, but I'm not sure the missus would like that.
I'd have one in a heartbeat, mate. 100%.
I might do it.
I think I'm getting close. I think I'm getting close to the point where I buy a match program and then like tick who's played, who's scored, and write little notes in it. I think I'm getting towards that sort of age.
Yes, definitely, mate. Well, I'm surprised at that because you've not got too many grey hairs yet, but I won't reveal your age. But yeah, you're obviously getting towards that point. You know what? I live near a cricket club. Lower House Cricket Club is just behind me. And there's some people that go, you can get them cricket books where you fill out the thing and you put like little diagonal lines when somebody scores a run and stuff like that. there's some older gentlemen that go to the cricket pitch and do that. So that's going to be me and you in a few. Well,
They are, Neil.
probably me. Oh, there you go. He's got one already.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I can't wait, mate. I can't wait.
So what is that, Andrew's Matchday Journal? What do you do?
I've had it for about, when did I buy it? It's still got receipt in it. So June last year, and it's never been used. Nothing's written.
There you go. It's a present for Neil. There you go. Neil, a present. There you go.
You've got the tools. You've got the tools. Do it. You got just go to the match and just make little notes, little diagrams.
It's literally got, like, you can do your starting 11, the score, the date, the kickoff, how many the crowd were. But then it's got extra little pages, so you can put reasons why Burnley FC are awesome, my top 10 moments of Burnley this year, my top 10 favourite football chants. There you are. So, yeah.
Out of the three main Burnley podcasts, I always sort of like say to people, like, we're the ones that are more for the younger generation. We're the ones that are more like, well, you know, mates in the pub sort of discussion. I think that theory's just gone straight out the window there, boys. Thanks to that.
Yeah. Well,
I think we're more for the older ones.
You wanted me back. You wanted me back. This is what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll have to replace Neil for Dan next week and bring the average age down quite a lot. I'm only joking, Neil. But before I wrap it up, because I'm going to start looking at it now, I do start work in around 25 minutes, and Neil is starving. He told me before the show started that he was starving, so we need to get Neil fed. Yeah. Claret and Blue 1882 says, think the podcast just aged 50 years. New Name says, as part of the younger generation, I'm very confused. Yeah, sorry, New Names. At least the younger generation is also here. Thank you for changing. Only. I bet New Name thinks that's ancient. I won't reveal about Neil's age because we're at ancient terror. Difficult one, but obviously we always do man of the match shouts. So I will be asking you boys for your man of the match, and then we'll look to get it wrapped up. Everybody get your comments coming in. Let me know your man of the match. Obviously, I do ask this question on Twitter, which I have noticed the club have started doing now. I'm not sitting here saying they've nicked it off me, because people easily can just say, who do you think is the man of the match? But because the club have started asking it now, not as many people comment on my one now, because people are too busy commenting on the official club one. But when I asked yesterday on the Twitter, again, sounded like an old man now, but when I asked yesterday on Twitter, I'm getting a lot of people sort of like saying it's difficult to say because not that many people really played well. And I do agree with that. But Joseph Lavery said Steve. Liam Beach said Sarmiento. Daz said the fans because the players were rubbish. Andrew Ashworth says tough callers as we did not play well. Turfy Topper said Will Norris, can get on board with that one. Marlon Sav said hard one because not many played well. Lee Ashworth said Sarmiento. John Robertson said Hannibal. John's normally one of the ones in the chat on the live. Obviously, he must be busy tonight. But that's an interesting choice from John there. I would completely disagree. Graham Cotton says Sarmiento. He'll probably WhatsApp me in a few hours and say, I've just caught back up with you. What are you on about? Parker's Cardi says Sarmiento. Martin Stevenson says the Portsmouth manager. Don't know what he's on about there. Kevin says Joe Worrell from the starters, but Sarmiento and Lauren were fantastic. So there you go, lads. I've just bought you some time so you can think about your man of the match. Neil, I'll come to you first. Who was your man of the match yesterday, please?
Well, yeah, it is slim pickings in it. I'm going to go Sarmiento just because his goal was. I loved his goal. You know, I just loved it. It was so satisfying. It's one of those where if you score it on FIFA, I do know what FIFA is. I'm not that old.
It's called EAFC now. Yeah, EAFC now.
There you go. So it's satisfying to score in it. One of them ones. It was just satisfying that goal. So
R1 and circle where you bend it round.
Exactly that finesse shot. Yeah, exactly. So I'll go for that one just for that.
Yeah, fair enough. Clarets says Steve. And hold on. Clarets and New Name are two completely different people. I'm here saying, hold on, your name. Apologies. New Name must be New Name because Clarets said Steve. Then New Name says, I would say I'm not that young compared to you. I shouldn't have brought that on screen. I thought it was a man of the match shout. I should really read it first. Claret and Blue 1882 says, the Pompey fan that was rattled. Yes, if you haven't seen it yet, it is on our Facebook page. I did steal it off somebody off Twitter. I'm not going to lie. I credited them. So what more do you want me to do? But somebody did put a nice, funny video up of a large Portsmouth fan, shall I say, kicking off and trying to ask the Bob Loaders to fight them outside, which was quite funny. Ray Moorhead says, Laurent for me made a difference when he came on. Can't disagree with that. Neil's acquaintance says, my acquaintance Layfield for turning up even though he's hungry. There you go. New name said Sarmiento, I guess, kicked off the comeback. Jacob Rees-Mogg. Sorry, not Jacob Rees-Mogg. Jacob Rees-Dog said Sarmiento. Lumbago is serious, says the referee. Absolutely not. He was atrocious. John Angus fan says, you're all young. My first match was in 1959 and Jimmy Robson scored 5. Fun fact, I used to work with Jimmy Robson's daughter when I worked at the Burnley Express. James Thresh says the ref. Claret Al, I honestly think the fans pushed the team to win that. Brownhill made inference to it in his interview. I've not actually seen that yet, mate, so fair enough. Simon Woodhouse says Brownhill. Scott Sullivan says Worrell, he pissed about too much. Sarmiento for Claret Al. Classic Benson goal, I thought, as well. A lot of comments coming in, so apologies if I haven't put you on screen. Twin Cities Clarets, Sarmiento, not just the goal, but they seem to change the dynamic. I'm going to agree with that. I'm going with Sarmiento. I don't like to give it the people that have come off the bench. I like to normally give it to the lads that have played the full 90 minutes. But not much of them did too much, to be fair. So for me, I think Sarmiento, he came on, changed the game. He ran at the defenders, scored like 3 or 4 minutes after he'd been on the pitch, and a beautiful goal as well. And as new name says, he kicked off the comeback. But Andrew, your thoughts on the man of the match? Who would you give it to, please, mate?
I think I said in my fan reaction, and I'm still going to stick by it. I thought Esteve. I thought he was just. I know he's solid week in, week out now, and you know what you're going to get with him, but he just showed his different class again yesterday. I'm very much like you. I don't like giving it to the lads who come on off the bench, but if I was going to go for someone else, it would be Sarmiento, because it was a brilliant goal when he come on. He was just fantastic, and I'd love to see him start next week. He was just brilliant.
Yeah, agree with that. I'd start him next week. Right, we'll wrap it up there, lads, unless there's anything I've missed that one of you two want to quickly chat about. Presume that's a no. Neil's shaking his head. Andrew's internet's not the best, or my internet's not the best. Andrew's now shaking his head. No shouts for Trafford. Confused me though, says Neil. He didn't have much to do. We have discussed Trafford, and I thought what he did have to do, apart from that one mistake. He did well, but he didn't do enough to earn the man of the match, in my opinion. Just do quickly want to mention Burnley women also got 3 points today and are sitting third in their women's league. Yeah, obviously, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't pay too much attention to the women's team. I'd love to have like a TurfCast women's section if, somebody wanted to come on and do that for us. Ipswich fans say he was better off the bench, not as good in the full game, obviously referring to Sarmiento. Interesting. We'll obviously have to wait and see how he gets on during the course of the season, because I would imagine he starts next week based on that appearance yesterday. But we'll wrap it up there. If you have joined the stream late, I've seen a few names that are discussing stuff in the comment section now that weren't discussing it at the start. You should know by now that as soon as I press end stream on this, the video becomes a standalone video for you to watch on demand on Facebook. And I will, of course, be ripping the audio and sticking it up as a podcast within the next couple of hours. Not really sure when I'll do it, but it will be there ready for your commute to work, to school, to college, or whatever it is you're doing tomorrow. But thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. Massive thank you to Andrew. Always available is Andrew, no matter what time of day. If I say, you're free at this time, he's like, yeah, mate, I have nothing going on. I am there. So big shout out to that. And of course, a massive thank you. A massive thank you and a massive cheer for the return of Layfield. It's what the fans wanted. It's what the fans have got. It was a movement. People have been asking, where's Layfield? He's back. How's your performance back, Neil? Are you feeling a little bit fatigued? Are you a little bit lacking in match sharpness at the minute? Do you think you nailed a few to get going?
Is there, yeah. Match sharpness is not there at all. Yeah. I'll take by the time Parker's worked out his strongest 11, I'll be back on it.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Hopefully we get to see Neil again within the next 9 months and he doesn't have another sabbatical. Fingers crossed we see Neil quite a lot this season. But Neil, I do appreciate it, mate. Always good. I know what it's like having a young child and stuff. I know it can be hard work and it can be busy. So I do appreciate you coming on the show. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for listening. And we will see you next time.